It's the Paris Chong Show. It's the Paris Chong Show, show. It's the Paris Chong Show. Hi, everyone. Thank you for listening. My name is Paris, and you're listening and watching the Paris Chong Show. And I have a very awesome, cool dude here today that I'm very excited that he asked to be on the podcast, which I'm thrilled. This is the infamous Phillip Caruso.
Infamous?
Yeah,
No.
you're infamous now.
Okay.
Especially
so it's
in,
legendary.
Well, you're also Vincent's dad.
That's
That's
nice.
who you were this week, right?
Good. Yes.
So welcome to the
Thank
show.
you.
Thank you for
you.
being here. So Phillip was in town because he was a guest speaker at the LSI convention that we just had at the Sofitel, and he was amazing and shared some of the incredible work he's done. He's worked with some of the most incredible directors and actors. He's been working with Francis Ford Coppola for years. He did most of Dinero's movie, 18 years of Dinero's movies, Pacino, I mean, the biggest names in the business. And we're going to ask him a few stories about those days.
Right.
Those
There's
wonderful
a lot
days.
of those.
Yeah. So how was it working with Francis Ford Coppola?
Well, we can work backwards. So the most recent being Megalopolis, which was finished last year, and that was my second movie with him. The first was The Rainmaker for Paramount Pictures with Matt Damon about 28 or so years ago. And that was an experience not to be compared, as anyone would expect that you walk in to observe him in directing. I've worked with multitudes of directors in different capacities that their background afforded them. Some came from writing, some came from camera. Francis, on the first movie that I did, I saw that his interaction directly with actors was none to be compared to anyone else. And it was because he had a very strong background as a theatrical, a stage acting and directing. So with that, he takes into account performance over the technical, not completely the technical side. It's not a wash, but I mean, his focus is to get the performances the way he wants them and have a nice balance of it. Whereas some directors, nameless, that maybe had never continued on, but they would be more involved into lenses selection and a shot. They would be more enamored by the equipment. Like, oh, there's a crane. We have a crane to use today, and they become so overwhelmed with that they lose the performance of the actors. So with that said, I watched the way Francis talked with the actors, the way they respected him, and when you're in that caliber, most of the actors are also in awe to be in his presence of doing it. So I'll jump to the end of The Rainmaker, and I'll have to transition how I came into it and how I came out.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's what you're
here for. I'll just jump to the end. So then he goes, no, because the setup was really cool enough anyway. But the quirk of it was that I said, okay, I have to leave. I had to leave early. I had to leave a week early or so because I was contractually set with Robert De Niro. So I had to go photograph Bob's next movie. And I had to leave Francis because Francis's movie was going longer than what was scheduled. So there was an overlap and so forth. But when I said, I'm leaving, and I looked at him and I pretended to zip my lips and I said, everything I saw, everything I learned, I was scared to death. And I just said, I won't say a word because I learned secrets, as I said, from him. And I said, I won't say a word. And he looked at me and he grabbed my face and he said, no, it's up to you to continue and perpetuate the stories of what you've seen and what you know so that the young people in this business will continue on in the business and know how things are done and everything. And I was just looking at him in amazement that, so I looked at that as someone had mentioned that I was being charged with that.
Yeah.
So here it is. I'm in a podcast talking to you. And if the
Thank
point
God.
that I learned from my mentors is that no matter how much time you spend with someone, if you learn thing, one thing you walk away with. So if anyone understands this podcast is walk away, that you're perpetuating the stories of the film business. And the way he basically, now it's like a little bit more known that the way he interacts with the actors, he does theater games.
Mm-hmm.
They're exercises that if you're a theatrical actor, assemble a company of actors together, you do certain exercises, like you throw a ball between the actors and you alphabetize the answers.
Right.
Everybody comes up with a different word, or it's the way, he interacted even with the extras and was teaching them how to be part of it. Because there's a scene in the movie where Danny DeVito and Matt Damon walk into a law office, and there's 24 extras, working in a law office, secretaries and people, clerical, and everything's going in a hubbub of an office. And he prepared even the extras so that if Danny DeVito's walking down the hall and he turns and says something to someone, they can interact with him as if they're a real paralegal or somebody standing there.
Right.
So it's not like, a background artist who's like, oh, I didn't expect the actor to talk to me or to say something. Francis wanted that whole flow that everybody
That's
just
nice of him, don't you think? Yeah.
Right.
So he's a nice guy.
Without doubt. But that's what I said. I was scared when I was leaving. I said, I'm not going to say a word. And so now I've told you the story, so that's the point.
No, that's good. It builds camaraderie, right? It makes
Oh,
everybody
yeah.
stay connected. And I like that he's nice to the extras as well, because sometimes people neglect the little guy,
I photographically, I stay with the director on any
Yeah.
movie. Where if they're going into another room to go talk, I'm there.
Well, lucky them, because you're so much fun to be around. You have such great energy. You're just
Well-
like such a light, and so it's so fun.
That's very nice and sweet of you to say so, but it also you have to be the fly on the wall. So
Yeah.
if they're going in a room or if they're going to do something, you just want to photojournalistically cover something without intruding or becoming overwhelming, and then you have to know when to make them laugh. Martin Scorsese, and so that he would want to have me there just so he could bounce just some humor every now and then.
That's good.
Which was really
It's
nice.
important.
Yeah,
It's
it
important.
helps him relax.
So now you call Robert De Niro Bob? Is that what people call him?
Well, and he would ask that everyone call him that because
Really?
if you meet him and you say, hi, Mr. De Niro or something, and if he knows you're
call me
working,
Bob.
yeah, just call me Bob. So that's how you know that he's relaxed too.
Well, I love the portrait that you shared that you took of him at the LSI convention. I thought that was a great photo. He actually looks like my son's father. Yeah, it's every time I see when he was younger, they look very similar. He used to get that a lot. So now you were talking about. Which of the movies that you did with him was your favorite to work on?
Oh, there was a stretch of comedies.
Yeah,
Meet the Parents and
I thought it
Analyze.
was so funny.
I know. So in the beginning was Cape Fear, Backdraft, and Casino was a lot of fun.
I
just
love
in
that
terms-
movie. I
Yeah.
love that movie. One of my best friends lived. We knew a lot of the people that played the character. Yeah, so she lived at the country club where the car blew up.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, so
That was,
I don't know if you knew that I grew up in Las Vegas. So when my
No.
girlfriend's dad was a huge developer, he actually built Caesar's Palace and a lot of the hotels on the Strip. And so she lived in the country club, and we kind of knew all those kids, the kids of those people.
We were filming in 94. We started in 94. My wife and I had gotten married. My wife, we got engaged while I was shooting Forrest Gump.
Oh, I know. And that's my favorite. I think I've seen that movie more than I've seen anything else. Like even my son recently was like, Mom, there's a new movie coming out with Tom Hanks and the lady that was in Forrest Gump. It looks like something you're really going to love. You know that movie Here?
Yeah,
I
right.
go, is that the movie you're talking about? He's like, yeah, that looks like something you're going to love because he's seen me watch Gump so many times. It's such a special movie.
Yeah.
I don't think
But
there
we're
ever was.
jumping all over the place.
I don't think
now,
there was
so-
anything better than that movie. I mean, what a beautiful movie.
That could be an entire podcast.
Yeah, no, it should be. It should be. So, and you were Tom Hanks. He must be a delight to work with.
fabulous. And,
Yeah. I wanted to add, but I'm jumping really quickly
I
back to
know.
Casino. I know there's so much that I
haven't
want to
finished
ask you.
4
I
other
know.
intro stories
Okay,
here.
so I'm going to
but
let you talk.
No,
'cause-
you.
No, but Sharon
feed this.
Stone. What's Sharon Stone like to work with?
She was hilarious.
She seems like she'd be fun.
She knew. She told me in the beginning too, though. She knew, in the context of everything of that movie, as you know, it was what they, you know, nicely referred to or not. It was a guy movie.
Yeah.
Because it was the story between Bob's character and Joe Pesci's character.
Yeah.
You know, and that's
Yeah.
the dynamics of it. She knew why she was there in terms of that. But the storyline, it was all based on the real guy, Ace
Yeah.
Rothstein. I mean, so anyway, she was just fun.
Yeah, but she just held
got
her
along.
own though in that movie.
She
I mean,
never right, and she was nominated for an Academy
I know
Award.
she was really
Hello.
great in that
Hello.
movie.
Yeah.
I know. She's on the board. She helps out with this. I'm on the board for the AIDS Monument, and she's a big supporter
That's
of
right.
that. Yeah, so she's very beautiful, and I think she's amazing. So okay, now you were talking about Casino. I mean, there's so many things I want to ask you. So,
She got along. I mean, she never. And someone was asking at the LSI, what was it? Was there a level of intimidation from my end of shooting these people, these actors, et cetera, celebrityism? I said, well, Sharon, considering she never said, Phil, like they send the still photographer out of the room. Never said that. Said never,
Why do people say that a lot?
Well, sometimes an actor would feel perhaps insecure or conscious or some kind of distractions and all that kind of stuff that they just feel like who should be in the room.
Right.
And usually the first person they'll try and dismiss is the still photographer if they don't trust the person, if they don't know them, if the person is incompetent, or if a person comes in and a person meaning a still photographer and just starts like thinking that all of this lights and everything is set up for them.
Right.
You're just there.
Right.
You're there to perform, some coverage. They're in the room to make a movie.
Right. And usually, and if you're with Coppola, he doesn't really even care about you. He's just looking at the camera lens.
Bingo. No, because
that must suck. I'd be
No.
like, wait, hey, I'm Sharon Stone.
But sometime just in the history, again, nameless, but I've been called to take over jobs where, for some reasons or another, still photographers have been dismissed, or they wanted to change the person or something. And I remember one time I showed up after the production had gone through 2 still photographers. They had fired 2.
Jeez.
And a producer just kept, pleading with me, you got to come, and it was on location. But I had an overlap. That was the point. You can only say yes, certain number of times. So when I finished one job, flew in immediately. Director knew me. The director saw me and said, "Thank goodness you're here," and said, "I don't have to worry."
Yeah.
It wasn't on that person's mind anymore. They didn't have to think about stills for publicity, for coverage. The movie will be marketed properly, and it wasn't on their agenda.
Francis Ford Coppola, and you were talking about working on Gump.
The lead up to Robert Zemeckis, a couple of years prior, I was working on a lot at Universal, and someone in the photo department said, Robert Zemeckis wants to meet you, and he had a bungalow on the other side of the lot, and they give you a golf cart, and I run over and bring the portfolio, and I go in, and I remember sitting in his conference room with his producer, and they're just looking at photographs, and I'm like still enamored, that. I said, well, why do you want to see me? Who am I? And he was doing, he was setting up to do Death Becomes Her.
Okay.
With
Meryl Streep.
Meryl Streep, Goldie Hawn, and Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
And I said, well, what, he's looking at my pictures and so forth, and everybody's talking. And I said, oh, what's the deal? Why? I said, how'd you get to me? And he said, they wanted to look at a different crew to going into these next few movies he was going to be doing, and they looked at Ron Howard's crew, and he said, well, we figured you'd worked with him like 2 or 3 times, and they said, well, if you're working with Ron, then that's who we want to work with.
Right.
And I went, wow. To me, that was pretty
Opie
good.
did really good, huh?
Oh, no.
He's amazing.
That was Ron. someone says, when did my career have the bump? And it was when I arrived to do Parenthood for
Wow.
Universal. And I mean, to this day, he is a solid, person. He's a good person I keep in touch, that if I need something or get an answer for something,
So the directors, they choose you.
it can be a very good question. So a still photographer can be brought into a production from any number of facets to it, meaning the studio that you've worked for, they can say, this is who we want. They can put you on the list or put you forward as their recommendation. For reason of location, if a guy happens to be based in, Iowa somewhere, and they happen to show up with a thing, they look at it financially and say, well, we can hire this person because they already live there.
Right, that's good.
And then they can look at it from an actor standpoint, that if it's someone that's continually with the actor and they don't want to, they meaning the studio doesn't want to disrupt the creative flow, let's keep the people that make him happy. The last part of it is you have to go in and meet the director, kind of like, it's his set.
Right.
And you're there to perform virtually everything outside of the director's realm of it, meaning the marketing. So they want you to do publicity, advertising. And as I was saying, you also have to secure all of the photographs that are in the movie.
Right. And that was cool when you said that you had there was a picture of the background.
Yeah, Bob
picture.
for the wedding from Casino.
Yeah, I love that.
Now, the sidebar story, Your Honor, was that shot of Bob sitting behind his desk with the framed picture of he and Sharon from the wedding. We filmed that scene, wrapped, came in the next day. The prop master came to me and said, Phil, you got to help me out. I went, what happened? He goes, all the frames of Robert De Niro from the wedding in the studio, in the office set, were missing. Someone stole them.
Oh, no.
Well, it was obvious.
Yeah.
The security guy who was there for the overnight to watch all of the equipment, he went in and took the photographs, but he left the frames. So
Oh, my God.
luckily, I said,
they have a good security guard.
So I had
Let's hire
duplicates,
him.
but it was just really funny. We ran around and
Yeah.
put pictures back in the frames. And I said,
so
what was the guy
weird.
thinking?
He's security. And
Yeah,
he
he's security.
stole
So
the
they
photos.
took care of that.
Oh.
Anyway, but
Okay, so Philip, did you always know when you were little that this is what you wanted to do, or did it kind of fall in your lap, or?
great question. And the fact that being raised in the company, in the family company
Yeah.
business, was that there were enough members in my family, including my dad, that worked within some realms of the film business. He wrote a short, which was a smaller film, and we had cousins and family members that were cameramen and assistants and so forth. So everybody was around the business. My father passed away when I was very young.
I know, that's sad.
So he had enough equipment. He had motion picture equipment, still equipment. He had a lot of toys in his life as well. And as my mother was sorting things and taking care of, he had a food business and catering service and just other things.
Right.
While she was sorting it out, she told me later on, she goes, she kept the Leica cameras and she kept some film equipment, she said, because one day my son may want to
Oh,
figure
she
these
knew.
things out. And so when I was about 9, well, first, when I was about 8 or 9, right after he passed away,
God, they're so young.
we had 16 millimeter projectors and we had movies. He shot 16 movies of everything, the way people shoot with their iPhone. He shot sound movies of the family, like having dinner, doing anything. And so when relatives or people would come over, they had a fairly large living room and they'd set up a screen and look. So my mom said they wanted to see some movie, and she goes, but we don't know how to use the equipment. And I was 8. And I said, I can handle this.
Oh, that's cool.
And they go, how do you know? And I said, well, I watched Dad thread the projector. So somewhere there was a photograph of me standing next to a projector. So that to me was like, okay, that's where it started.
I love that.
And then we'd rent movies, and one of the early memories, and Vincent, my son, liked here in that part that I said I could have been 9 or 10, laying on the floor looking up at a screen of the Magnificent Ambersons. And, Orson Welles had
Yeah.
directed, but I just kept looking at that, and to me, that was the change that I started understanding or becoming attracted to lighting and cinematography, and I was just like,
So you knew right away.
I just felt that was
Yeah.
it, and I said I was looking at that movie, and so that was the movie that changed it and said, okay, I could do this, and then
Your dad left that with you.
oh, very
Yeah.
nice. And I said I wanted to be a DP, director of photography. So I was shooting film, motion picture film, 8 millimeter, 16, 35, whatever. Started a film production company when I was 15.
Unbelievable.
That's another whole podcast of things that we did
Well,
because we shot commercials, industrial.
yeah, we could do another podcast called Overachieving Kids, and you could be the
that,
first guest.
and then we bring the son
It's
in,
good that you're an
bring the family.
overachiever, you know?
We self financed in what we called an industrial documentary,
Yeah.
and so then we would put up our money, shoot it, edit, do everything that was necessary, market it, and then we would sell it.
Can you believe
And
this guy?
and but again, shooting film, but carrying a camera on my shoulder and shooting stills. Then I started to decide, well, I'm going to keep shooting film. I'm going to join the union, and it was extremely hard. And I looked at to become a DP was going to be probably a 12 to 14 year ladder. And I didn't have time for that. And I said, I was 18. I said, I'm not going to wait that long. So someone said, why don't you get a union card for shooting stills? You've been on a set your whole life. You know what to shoot. You just have to, apply. So I applied to the union multiple times and was rejected, which I accept. I'm not like
Yeah.
sore with that. But when I understood the process of how you had to be screened and vetted, it made sense.
Mm-hmm.
And you had to go in with a portfolio. Every photographer should have to follow this rule. You have to go in with the photographs in your portfolio and the contact sheet of where it came from. So they wanted to see how you got it, which makes all the sense in the world because you can look at a contact sheet
Yeah.
and you can see what kind of coverage the person did. Just because they got one photo, yes, they would be lucky, or for that moment, it might just be a reaction of something. But you want to see what they were shooting, of how they got it.
That's interesting. They
Yeah,
want to see the contact sheet.
it's right. So you see the whole layout, and so finally, when I got in as a still photographer in the very beginning, further backstories, you had to work alongside. I was like an apprentice, so you would have to work with another seasoned photographer. You wouldn't have a job
Yeah.
completely on your own.
Who was
which,
your seasoned guy? Gal?
well, there were a number of them, but since have passed away. But I learned from a multitude. Someone mentioned recently, even Dino De Laurentiis.
Oh
Oh, we
gosh.
saw the thing. No, we saw the thing at the Academy where Marlon Brando was talking about he had worked with De Laurentiis, and he was talking about the way he talked gave Brando the voice for being Vito Corleone.
That's interesting.
So subsequently I did 5 or 6 movies for Dino, and he had the way of having English and Italian, camera and craftspeople. So I had like an incredible beginning of working with cameramen, DPs, designers, everything from Italy, and I was like the only, say, American in the group,
Yeah.
along with a number of
But
others.
you're Italian, right? Caruso?
Sicilian.
Sicilian. That's right. So you were with the you were the people. We talked about that the other day. The moms that throw shoes at you. Sicilian. Sicilian.
When it-
Watch out! Here comes a heel at your head.
when Dino met me, and the thing was, I was on a movie here in Los Angeles, and just as I said prior, that I got called later on to go take over a job or to, replace someone for whatever reason. Something was going on with one of De Laurentiis's movies, but I was on a movie here in L.A., and a friend of mine who worked for Dino called me and said, look, can you come over and take over this job? And the timing worked and blah, blah, blah. And so I ended up, coming out to immediately take over on De Laurentiis' job. And when I arrived from the airport, the guy says, you have to go right to his office. And I went, oh, no, what happened? And he got up and said, I wanted to meet you. And I said, I want to thank you for coming in to do this. And I went, wow. So he was very, very strict about running the still photography. He knew the importance of publicity, international publicity, more so than domestic, meaning that we would have meetings on Fridays with all the photographers, and you had to go in with your contact sheets. Think about that. And he
Wow.
would go through them, and he'd say, good, this, that, and you got notes right
So
from
you're
him.
getting critiqued by De Laurentiis. Wow,
Right.
that's pretty cool.
And the other guys with me, I'm the kid. And these other guys are like, older English and Italian photographers. And I'm thinking, what that, like, what are they going to, and it was a great way to just see this entire business laid out that
Yeah.
way. But every movie I did with him after that whenever, if he visited the set, he would walk straight in and come to me and shake my hand and say, good to see you. And he'd
He
leave.
respected you.
And the people in the crew would go, oh my gosh, what was that about? I said, we don't talk about that,
They must have been a little jealous.
You just let
They were
it go.
jealous. They were jelly.
So even my wife's hearing stories that she didn't hear before.
We're happy. Kathy's offset. Kathy's Mrs. Caruso is here. Vincent's mom. So we're happy to have her. And then Disco, who's needing a lot of attention today. So I just quickly, and then we'll move on to talk more about your movies. But you were talking about losing your father young, and also talking about if there's one thing that you can learn from somebody. And I know you were so young when he passed, but what's the one thing that you learned from your dad
Oh,
that sticks in your head forever and ever?
Well, one, but multiples. But as I grew up and then grew into the business, and I would run into people that had worked with him, and even in other capacities, there would be like little quotes or little things which would stick, and like, if I can't help you, I'm not going to hurt you.
Yeah.
And so it was the way of counter respect, but also to find some way to help a person, or the fact that he could get. Someone told me one time he could get any two people to shake hands and make a deal. And I think Vincent's like that. My son's like that.
Vincent's very
Vincent
special.
can make anything happen.
Yeah, he's a go-getter. He's another overachiever. The Overachiever Kids Club.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think Vincent's very special. I know how much you love him. We all love our sons, but he's very special and just such a gentleman, just such a good person.
You.
Yeah, I
Thank you.
love Vincent. I was sad when he moved to New York. I loved working with him.
But you've seen him.
Yeah, I get to see him a lot now. I'll see you guys again next week.
And we
you have a beautiful daughter.
Right.
I know. Sorry, there's another one. No, but you have a beautiful daughter that you adore
Thank you.
well. You guys have a beautiful, awesome family. I think
you.
everyone wants to be in your family. Everyone wants to be in your family. I'm coming for Thanksgiving. Did I tell you?
Sure.
So yeah, no, I'll be there. And so
Oh.
yeah, Disco and Leo and I are going to be there. Yeah, it's hard to do. It's my family's so small. It's me and my son and my dog. So it's very tiny.
We have room. We have plenty of room.
We don't take up a lot of space. And so okay, now getting back to working with directors, and you worked with Ron Howard, so he must have been a delight to work with. And who else you've worked
do
with
a
some of the
Ron story.
best?
Let me
Yeah,
tell you
okay,
about
Ron
Ron.
story. I love
So-
that. We're gonna do an Opie story.
So
I think that's cute.
the first movie was Parenthood.
Okay.
So we're in Florida, and Universal had just built Universal Studios. It was a complete sandlot. It was nothing. Everything that we opened up, the boxes were brand new with all the equipment, and Ron was just going, "This is unbelievable. This is the first movie that was ever done there." He was a great person to have that part of my career begin, because it was an ensemble cast. He had Steve Martin, Mary Steenburgen, Diane Wiest, Jason Robards, Keanu Reeves, very young, Martha Plimpton, and an actor now who's named Joaquin Phoenix, but at the time was named Leaf Phoenix,
Oh.
and he was only 9 or 10 years old in the movie. So that was, a big ensemble. And Ron could just juggle with all of them, and it was a bunch of kids in the movie. And I was just mesmerized as the way he did it. And so when the movie was over, I would always, go up, and someone, if not my dad, but someone along the way would say, always thank the producer. You thank the production manager every day when they call a wrap. You go, thank for a day's work. You got a day's work out of the person. So when the movie was over, they'd always say, go thank the director and the producer. So I went in to thank Ron, and I said, it's a great experience, thank you. And he just said, listen, I've just started a new company. It's called Imagine. He goes, I
Cool
don't
thing.
know, where I can fit you in later, because he's going to immediately go do another movie. But he said at that time, he said, whenever I direct, I want you with me. And
Wow.
I thought, okay, that's money. And it was a while before in the
Yeah.
second movie was Backdraft. And so,
That was wild too. You had to learn
oh
about all
yeah.
the, oh God.
So there was a meeting before Backdraft, before the filming, like months before. And they were going to put the actors through fire training course through the Chicago Fire
Wow.
Department. And the publicist turned to me and he goes, "You're going too." He points to me and I said, "What are you talking about?" And Ron goes, "No, Phil's going along because you're going to document the actors
Yeah.
being trained." So it further validated the story, because then when the movie came out, there used to be Life magazine. There was photos in the magazine that showed the actors being trained. So I got the same training to see what was going along,
That
and
must have been kind of intense,
we
right?
were. It was another, like, you were kids playing with
Yeah.
stuff, because I had my own boots, I had my helmet, and the photo department with the Chicago Fire, the guy there's only one photographer for the whole department, and his helmet plate said Photo Ops 1. And so somewhere during the movie, the photographer came on the set and he gave me Photo Ops 2. So I always had the plate with my name. He says, "You're the second photographer for Chicago."
Oh, that's good.
You got to
So
ride on fire. I mean, kids. There was a point where
it
I
seems
used
like it'd be dangerous. Was it dangerous?
oh,
No?
it could be, but
Yeah,
I had
no,
a
it was more
bag,
fun.
a camera equipment, wherever we were
Yeah.
filming. We filmed in 8 different firehouses, and whenever we would get there, I'd go over and meet the rest of the real firemen, and I'd say, "Look, if you guys roll on a call, could I go with you?" And I had my own boots and coat, so you had to have your gear
Right.
as well as photo gear. And so there was one day we walked down the street to go to lunch, and we're all there, and the regular firemen are there. And soon as they sat down to eat, you hear and their walkie-talkie went off, and they just stood up instantly. And one of the guys looks at me, he goes, "Okay, Hollywood, let's roll." And I said, "What?" And he goes, "You wanted to ride, let's go." So he goes, "They're going to bring the pumper is going to come down the
Yeah.
street and pick us up at where we were eating." But that's why when you got there, you put all your stuff on the truck, because just for that kind of situation. And all of a sudden, the pumper comes down, and I asked the publicist, I said, "Should I go?" And I asked Ron, I go, "Should I go or what?" He goes, "You got a chance to go." Ron goes, "Go, go." And I'm on the pumper, and it pulls away, and I'm waving at the crew, and they're looking at me like, "Where the heck you think you're going?" And it was hilarious.
The pumper. That sounds weird. The
No,
pumper?
you have a ladder truck, and you have a
Oh,
pumper.
is that? I don't even know what that is.
Okay.
What's a pumper disco? Well, so
All right.
so
So it's
Brad
all.
Draft was no, so Ron Howard and he's doing very well, right? I mean, he's
Then
like
we
the
did Far and Away. We went to Ireland.
with Nicole Kidman.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we had a couple of months in Montana, and then we went to Dublin for about 6 to 8 weeks, and then we go to Dingle for the end of the movie, which was actually the end of our filming was actually the very beginning of the movie. It was almost completely flipped. So we end up in Dingle on the west coast of Ireland.
That's where Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman met, right? Wasn't it? No?
I don't know about that part.
No. Am I
They
thinking
were
of a
already
different movie?
married.
Oh, they were? Okay, so
They
that
were.
wasn't.
It's
That was a weird couple.
Yeah.
Anyways,
No. They were married like
I find them a weird
cut.
couple. I don't get that one, but they're both very very talented people. Out of all, because you have so many movies you've worked on, so do you have something coming up?
Not until the contracts, not until some changes or whatever.
Yeah,
I mean, the
why is there
phone's
still
ringing.
some
There's
weird stuff?
calls for stuff, but it depends on, where it is. It's now it's based on location driven, because just
Yeah,
by the
everything's
reason of the
changed.
business
Everything's
model and
changed. Yeah,
finances are
yeah,
changing.
yeah. So, what of all the types of movies that you work on? Because you work on like some serious movies, some fire, like dramas and comedies. Like, what's the best? What's the most fun?
Well, comedies
Well, the
would be
comedies.
fun.
I mean, Meet the Fockers must have been hilarious. They were so
Well, Meet
funny.
the Parents.
Meet the
because-
Parents. Oh no, but Meet the Parents. But
Right.
then it went on to the other ones, right?
Right, but whenever you do the first ones, those are the most
They're
fun.
the best. Oh,
Well, like I did the first Bill and Ted's Adventure. Did you ever see that?
yes, of course I did. Used to have a
Okay,
crush on
you
Keanu
can't
Reeves.
you can't deny that.
That
and
was funny.
Well, here's a good one. I did the first Weekend at Bernie's.
Oh gosh.
Okay, was
Yeah.
that not hysterical? I'm in it.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm in a lot of these. I'm in about 24 movies.
Oh well, we have to do another show about that.
Oh,
The movies of Phil Caruso.
Ron put me. He asked me to be in Backdraft. I was going to be this photographer that shoots a Life magazine cover and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And then by the time they were going to shoot my scene, it was the very last of the movie, and I had to leave Backdraft with a week to go or a few days to go do Cape Fear.
Right.
And I was so brokenhearted. And I said, I'm not going to be in the movie. And Ron goes, oh, that's okay. He says, don't worry. He says, I'll find something, another one. So he put me in Far and Away as a photographer
That's
from the 1860s to take this picture. And I grew a longer beard, and I had all this period clothes on. So I got in, and
Yeah.
he signed my SAG application. Ron did. So
Did you
there
ever want to be an actor?
Don't you think? I mean,
You should have been.
from 8 years old.
Yeah, I guess so, right?
Mugging it up all the
Yeah.
time.
Why? Well,
please.
you could have gone that way.
Still can.
Yeah, maybe
I
now it's
still-
time. I don't see why not.
My SAG card and dues are up
Yeah,
to
you
date.
might as well. That would be great, don't you think?
Yeah.
I think you're right.
I'm thinking I've-
just
I've
so
been-
you know, he's up for hire for any acting jobs coming available. You just let us know. We're going to give you his website after the show. That'd be really good. Now, so Francis, he kind of is a fun director, right? He likes to have fun, from what I've heard. And then he started his own wine, right? Do you like
good
his
Lord.
wine?
Yeah, well, no, he's got a whole, complete.
He's got
Village of
he's
wine
a
and
wine
food
guy,
and everything,
and
really.
you also have a wine cellar in your home.
Oh, good Lord.
Right?
Yes.
Do you have a lot of wine in there?
Well, that's an intimate, personal thing, but
Because you showed me a picture with Woody Harrelson there, right?
well, that was during the course of a dinner, of a reception.
But you
and-
guys weren't drinking wine. There was
No,
other-
we were upstairs,
Okay.
and he just said, "I have a feeling," and it was Vincent and I. Kathy was actually in L.A. at the time,
Uh-oh.
and so
She was having fun in L.A.
yeah,
with
she
her
was-
girlfriends.
No, with our daughter. So,
Oh.
but he just said, "I bet you have like some better wines."
Yeah.
And I looked at Vincent, and we exchanged looks, and I said, "Should I take him down to Inner Sanctum?" And Vincent said, "Yeah." So we brought him down, and that was a personal moment, but it was hilarious. And I gave him a bottle of Coppola wine, and I
Yeah.
told him, I said, "This is not something I want you to have in the car on the way back
Yeah.
while your driver is driving." But I said, you don't just open this and throw it around.
Yeah.
He's a fun guy.
Yeah.
So and I think I've done 3 or 4 movies with him.
He seems like a fun guy.
And there's also a part of television work, and that was when you said like what's the more recent. Even though I finished Megalopolis, there's a whole nother part of the full background of work that's television, episodic, movie of the weeks, etc. From the very beginning, the first union job was something called a mini series. No one even
Yeah.
remembers that. I was working for
the
KNBC.
Thornbirds.
Huh?
I think the first one
Oh,
I can remember
sure.
is Roots and the Thornbirds.
Yep.
Right?
Right. This one was Long Hot Summer
Okay.
with Ava Gardner,
I love Ava Gardner.
Jason Robards, and Sybil Shepherd, and Don Johnson.
Okay, I don't know this movie. Or it's a
there's
miniseries.
It's 3 nights.
So it must have been when it
it's
was-
called Long Hot Summer. It
So
was a
she was
remake.
older.
Who?
Ava Gardner was
Oh, good
older.
Lord,
yeah.
And so then I met Robards.
Mm-hmm.
Subsequently, I did 2 movies in North Carolina with Robards, one with Tom Holtz
Mm-hmm.
and Jason, and that one was directly before I worked on Parenthood. And so then here it is, I'm meeting Ron Howard, and the cast come in, and Jason Robards comes in and walks straight across and greets me, and Ron Howard goes, "You know him?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "I've worked with him like 3 times before." And he was just like, "Wow." And then Ron's father, Rance Howard, was in that same miniseries with Jason Robards. And I had taken headshots of Rance and got to know him. And so he too walked on the set in Parenthood, came straight up to me, greeted me, and then Ron turns again, and, like during the course of filming, he goes, "You know him?" And I said, "I worked with him before I met you." And so it
That's
was
good.
nice.
See,
But
people remember you because you're so. There's something that you could. Well, Vincent's special because you're so nice and people respect you.
Thank you.
Because not a lot of people get that respect. A lot of people probably would get ignored.
Thank you. Yes, you're right. But Ron is the closest to like a complete family that I
Yeah.
was.
Do you see him when you come here?
I have.
Are we having lunch with him later today?
I.
Are we going to his house?
He's probably not here. I mean, the way he travels.
One of my son's friends was Brian Grazier's son, Patrick. But I didn't. Leo used to play with this kid, and they said, "Come pick." He said, "Come pick me up. I'm at Patrick's house." And this gate opens. I'm like, "Whose house is this?" Well, so they're still teamed up, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
That
they're
won't
the
be
best.
separated.
They're the dream team. The dream team.
He had that movie too.
Yeah.
Ron did a movie called The Dream.
Yeah, and his daughter's done very well.
Oh, I've seen.
She's amazing.
The funny thing too was that. Okay, so Parenthood, the kids are that much younger. So by the time a Irish movie comes along, I remember we had a commercial flight to Dublin, and Ron was dealing with 3 of the 4 kids. He's a dad.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. Mm-hmm. And he's, getting them through immigration and stuff. And as he's walking, approaching it, Reed, the son, was very small, and he's trying to make his way, and I grabbed Reed like you would grab, and I just said, "Here," I said, "Come with me," and I'm holding Reed and going up to the immigration thing, and he's in my arms as if I would have been holding Vincent, that many years later. And the immigration officer in Ireland looks at the passport, looks at me, and I said, "He's not my son. He's got flaming red hair." And I said, "He's with that guy back there." And he goes, "Okay, I got it."
That's funny. So where did Vincent get that hair, your son? You have curly hair?
Yeah,
Like curly hair.
And this as well. Based on originally.
Well, he looks like both of you.
Oh, that's sweet.
If anybody wants to see your work, where can they look at it?
Two ways immediately. It's Instagram. It's phil.caruso. But you can Google my name, Phil Caruso Photographer. You can go to IMDb, Phillip Caruso. You can go to philipcaruso.net and go to my website. Some of the video presentations I've done are on there. There's interviews. Leica, when I received a Lifetime Achievement Award from the SOC, Society of Operating Cameramen, Leica graciously did an interview for a blog that's still up, and they said to submit a dozen pictures. I sent them 25 pictures. I got a call back a few days after that, and the guy says, "Well, we've never done this before. We're going to run all 25.
That's amazing.
He goes, "No one wanted to cut any of the pictures
That's
out."
good, though.
So it was very nice.
Now, are you with the ASC?
ASC.
The American Society of Cinematographers?
No.
No? I curate for them sometimes. But anyways, I thought you were for some reason.
No, SOC.
SOC. ASC, SOC, SOB, it's all the same.
Right.
So
I was a founding member of an organization called SMP, SP. Because there was a number of organizations that all start Society of Motion Picture.
Yeah.
And then you could put in Society of Motion Picture editors, this. So I said we call it Society of Motion Picture Still Photographers.
Okay.
SP, it's still in existence. I, along with 12 other photographers, and they were all in LA. I was the only guy in New York right after I moved there. And they said, we want to start this group. And it was just another society of getting photographers together, and was hopefully going to move into a direction of doing charitable auctions and donations. And
see, and you're sweet too. Now, one last question I'm going to ask you, because I know you lost your father young, but you're so sweet and nice. It must have been from your mother. You have an amazing mom.
I did, sure. I mean, she continued to raise my older brother and myself. And, she was a hard worker, massive hard worker. So I saw those the skill set that was needed, and somewhere she said, when she was asked subsequently when I was in high school or something about an interview, I went to her when I was about 15, and I said, I need $100 or something. And she said, what's that for? And I said, I have to get some cards printed. I started a business. And she goes, really? Yeah. So she and I were like partners, because
That's amazing.
I would have businesses, and I used to do 2 or 3 jobs at the same time I was in high school. I developed photographs and for a newspaper, and they didn't know I was 15. And so it would always be, I would have the photographs ready, make the invoice, and a driver would come to my mom's and pick up the stuff and sign it. And after about a year, and the driver would go, where's Mr. Caruso? And she said, well, my husband passed away or something. But then she picked it up and said, well, he's not here right now. That's the only way she'd answer it.
Yeah.
And after a while, like I said, they want to meet me. And I come in at like 15. And the owner of the newspaper said I had no idea.
That's great.
So it was very funny.
Well, you're funny.
Ah,
Well, thank you so much for being here.
this has been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you
You're
for
a
coming in.
gem.
You're awesome. And thank you for listening to the Paris Chong Show. You can find us on Spotify, YouTube, Apple, and TikTok, which I don't even use TikTok, but I'm going to start, right? And also on Instagram at Picho Show. And thank you to my team, and thank you to Disco for being a good boy. Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye. It's the Paris Chong Show. It's the Paris Chong Show, show. It's the Paris Chong Show. It's the Paris Chong Show, show. Sit down in the chair.